I don't understand what exactly the parent are trying to say when they say my child is not able to read. I put them a lot of questions, whether the child is not able to identify the word, or the child is not able to read the word, or the child is not able to uh, understand understand the classroom, or doesn't like the school, or doesn't like the curriculum, or doesn't like the textbook. So but behind that there is a story of a child. So that is what called learning disability or learning disorder is all about. Generally this word disability is a medical term. When it comes when as a teacher, that you can also reframe this word called learning disorders can be reordered and reframed. So learning disability, every one of you have one learning disability that eventually when you grow, you would have corrected it. For example, um, be it like for an argument's sake, you can even think that in 10th standard you were poor in mathematics, but now as an educator, when you became a teacher, that you are able to understand mathematics. So where it is why you were poor in mathematics, you assumed that you were poor in mathematics. It means, what does it mean? Is it mean that the teacher is not able to teach properly, or you are not able to understand properly, or are not able to like the numbers which is going to ahead, or the foundation is not proper? But among that, uh, these disorders is something hindering to the child. That is what we are going to discuss about. So when we talk about learning disabilities or the problems that affects the brain ability to receive, process, analyze, or store information. Commonly these learning disorders or learning disabilities are generally a problem where the child feels difficult for learning. When you teach something through a fragmented learning or through a programmed learning, break into parts, and when you teach the child, yeah, you have to learn like this is how you have to learn, this is how you have to read, this is how you have to spell the word, this is how you have to add, this is how you have to subtract, this is how you have to uh, multiply. When you explain the child in a very polite way, the child finds because not able to receive it properly. Even though the child able to receive properly in the classroom or at home with parent or with teacher, the child the information whatever the child has received not able to process and analyze, and it is not coming out as a visual motor skill or the fine motor skill. So this is what called a learning disability or a disorder is all about. Finally, the child is not able to understand, or a child is feeling difficulty inside the classroom. Generally, in the classroom, if you have 30 to 40 students in the classroom, there will be 5 to 6 children will be hyperactive. 5 to 6 children will be always sitting in the first bench where you will be addressing those students. Most of your classes will be based on this 5 to 6 students, and the 5 to 6 students, they don't write anything which is written on the board, or which is on the projector or on the smart TV. Or there might be 5 to 6 children, they don't even want to sit in your class. So there are 5 children that they say, yes, I understood everything whatever you taught, but when it comes to an assessment, when it comes to a kind of written assessment, or it can be a questionnaire method, the child is not able to understand and receive. So among for all these things, the child is facing some sort of difficulty in learning. That is what this is all about. So a learning disability we call, or disorder is called LD. It refers to a group of disorders, and it has been a broad range of academic and functional skills, including in the ability to speak. The child is not able to speak properly, child is not able to listen properly, child is not able to read properly, child is not able to write properly, or spell properly, or reason out the things, or organizing the information. This all areas, this key areas comes under the category of learning disability. According to the International Classification of Diseases in the year 1999, they have defined a learning disorder or a learning disability. It is a significant a deficit in learning due to the person's inability to interpret. So when a child is analyzing the data, the child is receiving the data, the child is not able to interpret the data by which is seen or heard. For example, if I say a word elephant, what comes in your head? Elephant has come in your head. If I say white elephant, the white color elephant that came in your head. If I say a green apple, it came in your head. So when I give you an information, you have received it, you have interpreted it, and you are reverting that to your brain, and this image is formed in your head. So that is how you are understanding. But here, when you this children, when you say a word, the child not able to receive that information properly. Even though the child able to receive the information properly, the child has an inability to interpret. So the word inability has two words called inability is a negative word, can also have a ability to interpret some other things. So you shouldn't corner those children when you see the child who's having a learning disability. It is not very evident until or unless a proper assessment is done, a proper scrutinization is done on the child, or a proper observation is done on the child. So when a child is having an inability to interpret which is seen or heard, not only heard, which is seen, heard, and experience, when the child is not able to understand these three areas, that is what called learning disability is all about. I hope you would have understood what is called learning disability. But what are the causes of this learning disability? The learning disability often runs through the family. It also a part of the family, like if a parent is having a problem of a learning disorder or a learning disability, the child also may have a similar disabilities, meaning this doesn't come under the umbrella term of retardations. It comes under the category, it is a common category where every child also have these kind of issues in the classroom based on their grades, based on their teacher, based on the curriculum. For example, if the child is in kindergarten, the child may have a difficulty in identifying the letter because the child doesn't know what is called lowercase, what is called uppercase, what is called small a, what is called big A. So when you explain small a, big A, the child is not able to understand it, because the foundation for small a and big A. For example, if it is big A, the child should able to scribble. The child should scribble. That's the first initial stage of learning when it comes to writing. The child should understand when I say the word standing line and sleeping line. When you say standing line and sleeping line, it means there is a formation in the brain that it is alphabet A, that is uppercase. So this is how it happens with the learning disability child. So it may also have a possibility from heredity through parents or some other relatives from their relatives of their side, that they have similar disability, and this cannot be cured, but you can be given a therapy interventions. There is a second cause called through pregnancy. It can be a premature issues, or it can be anomaly in developing a brain illness or injury, or any other reasons, especially pre-birth or post-birth. So these are all causes of that. And the third cause is all about accidents after birth. The child having some head injury or any kind of malnutrition. When the child is having kind of particular injuries in very young age, the child may have this kind of learning disability, because the information is going to be very slow for the child. So when it comes to an umbrella term of a learning disorder or learning disability, there are four types of learning disorders that each and every teacher, each and every parent must understand. If you don't understand, over a period of time, you will be angry with the child. You will have a lot of comparison with the child, because you will compare the next door, telling that the child is able to perform well and you are not able to perform well. So these kind of comparison happens when you don't understand, when as parent, as teachers, when we don't understand this umbrella term, four types called disorders of reading. When it comes to reading, the child must understand the phonic charts, The child should understand the letters, identification of letters. And, and this happens with each and every child when it comes to reading. When the child is not able to identify the word, not able to recognize the word, not able to form the word in the head, so there are a lot of assessments where the child can also be taken to be a good learner. So the first condition is all about disorders of reading. The second condition is all about disorders of mathematics. This is very common with everyone, where you dislike mathematics. That's the reason the mathematics students till 10th standard, whoever studies, they doesn't want to get involved in mathematics. With compulsion, they would have studied 10th standard till in mathematics till 10th standard. But when it comes to 11th standard, they want to go for a pure science group or something else like that. So the second term is all about disorders of mathematics. The third order is all about disorders of writing expressions. When the child is taught how to write, the child is not able to receive the information, interpret the information, not able to put that in the fine motor skill development process. Like that is where these four types of disorders are all about. That is the third disorder, where called writing expression. And the final one is learning disorder. Learning disorders, but not it is not mentioned exclusively inside the classroom, but there are other kind of learning disorders that also be spoken out and to be known by the teacher as well as the parent and the educator. So four learning disorders: the disorders of reading, the disorders of mathematics, disorders of writing expression, and the learning disorders. I'm sorry, people, because since I'm a teacher, I have to be very slow, and I will ensure that that each and every one of you, I assume that you have to understand this concept, because this is very important, that each and every parent and educator and a teacher must know about this learning disorder. Fail to know about this, you will be angry and you will listen to whatever the child says. For example, the child would have told you, when the child is in 5 years or 6 years, the child would have told you that I am not able to receive information, not able to understand. The child will be very silent. The child will not react to anything. But you would have slapped the child, or you would have hit the child, you would have informed the class teacher or the school heads, telling that the child is not at all focusing on that, using gadgets all the time, not able to focus on reading, focus on mathematics, focus on writing expression. All these things happens by the parent in the school. And so I request every one of you to listen carefully about this. So when it comes to a classification of learning disability, there are common types of learning disability. When we talk about in the previous slides, when we were discussing about reading, mathematics, and written explanation, it has been broadly termed in an umbrella term, common types of learning disability. The first one is dyslexia, which means difficulty in writing. We would have heard this word called dyslexic student or dyslexia. Um, I would like to tell you one theory called Howard Gardner's theory, called multiples of intelligences. How many of you? I don't know how many of you have heard about it, but just check like how this theory works out. This theory of multiples of intelligence has been divided based on the category of children in the classroom. There might be some children, those who they don't sit in one place. There are a few children that they always sit in the front rows. They don't want to disturb anybody, and they have to be they want themselves to be very disciplined, obedient. There might be some children, they are very hyperactive, they want to answer all the questions. There might be some children, they don't even want to open the mouth even a question is asked. So these multiples of intelligence has imbibed the values, like in finding out the best intelligence in the classroom. So here, this theory, when we take this theory, and this all these areas can be completely taken off. The first category is dyslexia, called difficulty in writing, difficulty in reading, difficulty in spelling. So two very important areas. When we talk about four major skills, when we talk about this dyslexia, four major skills in English is very important, or any language, it is very important. It can be Urdu, or it can be Arabic, or it can be any languages, Greek or Latin or whatever language. Four major skills. One is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. But generally, what happens with a child, this starts with a reverse skill called writing. We initiate writing because that is the only evidence which we need to give for the parent. We don't start with listening. We don't start with speaking. We do with two skills. One is reading, the other skill is writing. But we initiate writing a lot than listening and speaking. So that's the problem. The child is not able to speak properly, not able to identify the word properly, not able to read properly. So as teachers, one thing, keep it in your mind. Takeaway one, you have to make the child, as a parent, you have to understand the child can able to identify the word or not, the child able to spell the word or not. So you need to confirm, reconfirm again and again. So in every grade. So when the child is having difficulty in reading, difficulty in spelling, that comes under the category of dyslexia. The second category is dyscalculia. It is very common, as I told you earlier. It is all about mathematics. It is all about computation problem. Whenever they see symbols, they see problems, and they are very much irritated. They are having that aversion towards mathematics. So when they have difficulty towards that, the child will not have an interest. So that is what the definition is all about. So the second category is dyscalculia, calculations, dyscalculations. Yeah, the third one is dysgraphia, where it is very, this is also very common nowadays. With the children of kindergarten to grade 3, the child is not sitting in the same place and writing and writing and writing and writing. The child is not able to write because the child is not able to interpret that. So the child is having some difficulty in writing, called difficulty in writing. It's spelling and composition, which means a lengthy passage or a lengthy way of writing, a continuous way of writing. Okay, it can be a joining the letters and writing again and again. So this comes under the category, third category, called dysgraphia. And the fourth category is dyspraxia. Dyspraxia is also connected with the coordination, with the physical development. So we don't want to go more into dyspraxia. Three areas we need to understand. One is dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia. So as teachers, understand these are all terms available. These are all terms are there, and there are certain children grouped based on these categories also. So there is another category called dysphasia, or as aphasia. So this is related with the speech and language disorder. The child is not able to articulate the word properly, not able to pronounce the word properly. The child is not able to put it in a spoken form, but it is very common. Yeah, when the child is having issues in kindergarten, that's not a problem. When the child is 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, not a problem. When the child is in the age of 8 or 9 or 10, if the child is having any problem with speaking difficulty, and definitely you need to consult a clinical psychologist or an occupational therapist in finding out what type of problem the child is really the child is having in pronouncing the word or with the speech sounds. And this also can be rectified in a various forms. So when we talk about dyslexia, we had an umbrella term. I was talking about the definition. The general term of reading disability, which involves difficulty in phonetic mapping, where the child have difficulty with matching various orthographic representation with specific sounds. Generally, earlier when we were learning, we used to learn the word, learn only alphabets. 26 alphabets were taught, and later on they have given only practice to us to read. They did not teach us sounds. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right. Correct? Yes. So we have learned only with alphabets. We have learned only not with sounds. The combination of nowadays the children are taught the sounds, and we call it as sight words and phonetics. This always doesn't map together, and that when a sound is taught to the child, and it is easy for the child to read, but for us it took a lot of time in understanding the reading process. But the child who has understood the specific sound for the particular alphabet, the child able to represent properly. But here the problem is, if the child is not able to understand or interpret or receive the information properly, and definitely the child needs some sort of therapy interventions or needs some sort of special love from the parent or the teacher to look into the child and what exactly the child is having a problem. uh, my dear friends, I'm not talking about kindergarten here. I'm not talking about kindergarten. Don't visualize yourself that when I talk about alphabets, when I talk about identifying the word, don't enter into kindergarten. I mean LKG or UKG. I'm talking about the adults. Okay, I'm talking about the pre-adolescent children. They may also have difficulty. இப்ப 9வது படிக்கிறான் சார். ஒண்ணுமே படிக்க தெரியல. Reason is that the child would have had any kind of difficulty, maybe in reading or in understanding or receiving the information. So dyslexia means the child is having difficulty in phonetic mapping. Keep it in your mind. Dysgraphia, again, physical writing with visual motor integration or fine motor integration. The child able to understand the word but not able to write properly. So you would have seen examples like B is written as T and F is written in a reverse way. Now, this mirrored images the child would have will be writing, and the child is not able to understand, or the child is not able to form the word properly, which means the child also has difficulty with the motor skill. The child hates writing. Okay, that is how you can find out if the child is not facing difficulty. This can be completely taken off only by providing opportunity to the child in a lovable way. You have to give a special care, special attention to the child, that the child, you have to encourage the child in making the child to write, and you have to give them some techniques how to involve and love motor skills. So this is the only area that you can do. When it comes to dyscalculia, they hate mathematics. They have some sort of difficulty in mathematics, and we also come across these kind of difficulty, especially in mathematics. When we see the teacher, when they say there is an examination, we say, like, especially division and multiplication, the student must struggle a lot, especially grade 1 and grade 2. But when the child understands division and multiplication, the child can do mathematics well. But there are certain children where they feel difficulty in understanding the concepts, because it is conceptual learning, the child not able to receive the information properly. So what are all the early assessments or identification that you need to do as a teacher, as a parent? This learning disability is not curable, but it can be given, uh, as I told you, therapy interventions or remedial measures or remedial teaching can be given to the child. That is what. Finally, coming to a nutshell, the child must be given a special attention. The child must be given a special attention or a special care or love in in initiating that this disability is not moving forward, right? So keep it in your mind. So this is the only way that as parent, as teachers, that you can do. So another part of assessment, the child must be assessed in all the areas. Only the child is not able to write properly. Okay, come on, man, you're having a problem with dysgraphia. No, it's not like that. If the child is not able to write properly, the child is not able to read properly, you need to do a suspected disability assessment, which is connected with your health, which is connected with the child's health, child's vision, child's hearing, child's social status, child's emotional status. So who will do that? A special educator can do that, or it can be done by an occupational therapist, or um, it can be done by clinical psychologist, or it can be done by a registered RCA rehabilitation, RCA registered special educator also. So when it comes like this, so like this is the way of doing an assessment. So there are two types of assessment that you can do in the classroom. Generally, when we talk about assessments, you have two type of assessment. I'm going to end up the session in 2 minutes of time. There are two types of assessment generally as teachers, as parent, we know. One is called formative assessment, the other one is called summative assessment. What do you mean by formative assessment? Formative assessment is a regular test or after completion of the chapter, asking the questions or probing the questions, or it can be a quiz, or it can be a game, or it can be a kind of written small sort of slip test. So this all comes under the category of formative assessment. Then and there assessed is called formative assessment. The second assessment is called summative assessment. That is called your quarterly examination or term one, or half-yearly examination or term two, or it can be periodic assessments or whatever assessments. When it come when more marks are involved is called summative assessment. But for this learning disorder, these two types of assessment doesn't work out. There are two types of assessment that the teacher and the parent should understand. One is called criterion referenced assessments and norm referenced assessments. There are two types of assessment that we have to do. We can learn that in elaboratively. Okay, when it comes to criterion test assessments, criterion referenced assessments or tests or scores according to the standard or criterion decided by the teacher, the school, or a test publisher. It varies from child to child. The assessment, whatever you do, for the child in the classroom who can able to understand, receive, and process information cannot be matched with the learning disorder child. That criterion assessment should be different. For example, this criterion referenced assessment might be a teacher made spelling test where there are 20 words to be spelled, where the teacher has defined as an acceptable level of mastery as 16, correct as 80%. So the level of, according to the level of child, a different type of assessment to be conducted in the classroom. That is what I told you already. It is based on pure love, pure special care by the teacher, then only we can do it. So if a teacher thinks that, or if a parent thinks that the child should score very good marks in the examination, no, like other children, it will not work out. So the one is called criterion referenced assessment and the norm referenced assessment. Norm reference assessments are the assessments. The scores on this test are not interpreted according to the absolute standard or criterion, that is 8 out of 10, correct? But how students' performance compares with that the norm group. So you do a lot of references with the child based on the representation of the group. You do a lot of comparison. Based on the comparison, you understand the child and you give marks. So it is all about your pattern of corrections. You have the same paragraph writing. Out of 5 marks for one child, you give, if you know the child, that is why they give the number instead of giving names, they give number to you. If the child is writing a paragraph, the same paragraph is written by some other child. This child may have, you may give 5 marks, but for that child, because of the handwriting or because of the presentation, would have given 6 marks. To another child, you know the child very well, the child study very well, you give 5 out of 5 marks. So it depends. It depends. Like
SAR battery downed. That's why he will not return back. Anyhow, he has finished his part. Learning difficulties are there. In a class, many students are there who cannot learn. So sir has explained clearly what is disorder of reading, what is the disorder of mathematics, and what is the disorder of writing. So many types of disorders are there, and dyslexias are there. So we have to take care of this because among our students, there may be one or two like this in every class. We may not be able to identify them. But when we go close and inspect the things, then we can identify them. And for them, we have to give special concessions. That is the net talk of Anand CALSON sir, Vice Principal of Wisdom Park. Thank you very much. Again, we will be meeting tomorrow with new speakers, that is a set of speakers who are experienced. And we request all of you to join along with your friends.